secure. If there's something happening outside, we will lock the doors, ask you guys to stay in here until it's safe to go outside. If we have a call for a lockdown, we're going to ask everyone to retreat to the nearest safe place and stay in that space until you are released by law enforcement. If we need to go into a hold, for example, if something unfortunate happens, like someone has a heart attack, we'll stay in here while emergency responders get to them. Evacuation, if we have a fire alarm or anything goes off in here, just go ahead and evacuate out to your vehicles and take off. We don't need to have a rally point. And so that really just wraps it up. And I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Cook.
Thank you, Julianne. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. This is our second listening session, and we're planning on doing something like this every quarter. So we'll do something similar. I don't know if it'll look exactly the same, but we anticipate doing one after the break at some point, maybe a winter listening session, and then another one in maybe in the spring. And I think we're committed to that. And now, before we get started, can we take a second to all stand and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance? And there's a flag over here, and there's one up on the wall in case you're looking. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, so first off, let me talk just a little bit about the rules of engagement tonight. Let's do some introductions. Talk a little bit about, Julian just talked about restrooms and safety exits and those kinds of things. And so let's start first by introducing our players tonight. As you know, this is a board leadership listening session. So first I would like to introduce our board leadership. That's Melissa Barnes-Delakia, our board chair. Our vice chair, Marcus LeGrand. Our board members that are in attendance, Shamiko Montgomery, Shirley Olson, Yanette Sarai Yerande Gonzalez, and Carrie McPherson Douglas. I would also like to introduce our interpreters. We have both ASL Sign Language interpreters here, Erin Trimble and Kayla Celadon, who's currently spelling her own name. And then I'd also like to introduce our Spanish interpreter, Joel Vargas. So now let's talk just a little bit about how this process is going to work. We have roughly 25 or so speakers. We're going to ask that you state your name and either your school of affiliation, or if you don't have a school that you're affiliated with, maybe your city of residence. We're going to ask that you stick to 2 minutes. When addressing the board leadership, we're going to ask that you sit in this chair, speak into this mic. We'd also ask that to help us with conflict management. We don't all agree on what topics we're going to be discussing tonight, I'm certain of that. So we would ask that you actually address your topic to the board, maybe not turn around and address other people in the room, so kind of square your shoulders to the board and talk to them. One thing that we got clarification on from the state, this is when you're speaking to the board in this environment, you're considered a public speaker, so you can take your mask down if you wish to do so. And if you do that, then please, we would just request that you put your mask back on when you're done, and we'll continue on with the evening. For those of you in the audience, we ask that you refrain from heckling or booing any statements. We'd also ask that you refrain from cheering or clapping. We're trying to create an opportunity for everybody to engage in dialogue with the board. We aren't all going to agree on what's stated today, and that's part of the responsibility we carry in public engagement. And for that to happen effectively, we want to recognize that people have a right to their opinion, and it's their right to hold those opinions. And secondly, we want to recognize that people have the right to be respected, regardless of whether or not you agree with their opinions. We're expected to follow state guidelines regarding masking, whether one believes it is effective or not, so please follow those rules with us. We are gonna, if we have to, we would politely ask you to mask up. If refusal to comply, we might ask you to leave. If we have troubles following the rules, we might have to cancel the event. So I think that with that, we can go ahead and get started. We've got 24 speakers signed up for tonight. And I think unless there's anything the board would like to state at this point, we're ready to go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, our first speaker, we'll have the timer right up on the screen so you'll know when that time limit is up. First speaker is Carrie Zurovsky. Is Carrie outside? Okay, we'll go to the second speaker. If she shows up, we'll work her in. Second speaker is Derek Manuel. Come on up, Derek. Derek, state your name and your school of affiliation or city of residence.
My name is Derek Manuel. My wife and I grew up in Oregon and have lived in Bend for the last 9 years. We have a son in 2nd grade and a son in kindergarten, both at Miller. There's a double standard for our kids when it comes to COVID measures. Adults in Oregon can spend hours in a restaurant and they only have to wear a mask walking to the table or using the restroom. But at school, our kids get a few minutes to eat with minimal talking aloud before they must put the mask right back on. Adults in many different work environments do not have to wear masks throughout the day. Our kids, every moment is in a mask from stepping on the bus to stepping off the bus, except for brief breaks if there's outdoor recess. The adults can live mostly normal lives while the kids are severely disrupted. Even through Delta, there have been 0 COVID deaths of anyone under age 47 in Deschutes County. Our kids are not at risk. The measures enforced upon our kids are to make adults in our community feel safer, but adults need to act like grown-ups and take responsibility for themselves. If adults are concerned, they can choose to get vaccinated, they can choose to wear a mask, they can choose to stay home. They can now even choose to get their own kids vaccinated so their entire family is protected. They have every option available to make themselves feel safe. Let's stop sacrificing our kids and let the adults be grown-ups and take care of themselves. We have elected you, the board, to do what is best for our kids. I now urge you to use the influence and power of your positions to stand up and fight for our kids. I understand that you plan to follow whatever Governor Brown and OHA say, but you can push back and request substantiation for their requirements. Governor Brown doesn't want to listen to me, but she will listen to you and the other boards throughout the state. This double standard needs to be fixed. Also, I know I'm not supposed to name names, but thank you to the board member who met with me face-to-face to discuss these issues. We may disagree on these measures, but I think we can agree that the kids are getting the short end of the stick on all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's please refrain from cheering. Derek, I want to thank you for that very respectful approach. Appreciate that feedback. All right, next speaker, Danielle White. Please state your name and school affiliation.
Hi, my name is Danielle White and I teach kindergarten at this school. And I'm wearing 2 hats tonight, one as a teacher and one as a mother. As a teacher, the lunch plan is not working. Kids were eating outside in the cold, on the ground, and now that it's too cold to be outside, kids are eating in our classrooms and common areas. Because of this, teachers are losing about 30 minutes of prep time in their classrooms to get work done. We're also losing a place where we can be mask-free and have a break and have time to recharge for the second half of our day with our students. Teachers are also losing instructional time after lunch because we're cleaning up our classrooms, which includes wiping tables, sweeping up food, and even sometimes vacuuming because food has been spilled or smushed into our carpets. Our carpets and furniture in the common areas are getting stained and ruined because they are not meant for kids to be eating 2 meals a day on. Elementary teachers are bearing this burden alone, while middle and high school teachers get their entire lunch period in classroom to themselves because those students get to use the cafeteria or eat outside. None of these eating protocols are listed in the RSSL document, which was handed down by OHA and ODE. It only strongly advises maintaining 3 feet distance to the extent possible. However, because some board members were not comfortable with kids eating lunch in the cafeteria, Superintendent Cook had to change the entire district's lunch plan, and I take issue with a few people affecting 33 schools, more than 18,000 students, and 2,000 staff members. I think it's ludicrous. Now for my mom hat. It's your job to protect our children and advocate for them and provide them with the least restrictive environment for learning. You should be fighting for our kids. Our kids have been bearing the brunt and the burden for this pandemic, and it needs to end now. We should be protecting them. We have all the opportunities that the last speaker said to protect ourselves. The RSSL states that the decisions of school health and safety reside with the school district officials. You have the power to change all of this, and we are all here because you are not doing your job. You are not protecting our kids from these ridiculous mandates, and we will continue to show up until you do.
Thank you for your comment. Come on, folks, let's just get through them. Thank you. All right, next, is Carrie here? Did anybody? Nobody's outside. Carrie Zurowski. Okay. Next speaker, Frank Heimerdinger. Frank is not here. Frank Heimerdinger. Okay, next one, Corey Boudreau. Please state your name and your school affiliation.
Corey Boudreau, Sun River, Three Rivers.
Thank you.
First off, this is not a referendum on the Three Rivers school staff or faculty. Also, all deaths are tragic, especially with young children. With that said, what's the school board doing to get the masks off of our children? There is an approved vaccination for everyone above the age of 12. If you want the vaccine, get it. If you don't, do not. Why are we still wearing masks? Who are we protecting, 5 to 11-year-olds? 2 days ago, the CDC published a slide presentation titled Epidemiology of COVID-19 in Children's Ages 5 to 11. Here's some of the stats. Since the beginning of the pandemic, 558 kids between the ages of 0 to 17 have died of COVID, a cohort of 73 million. 2 children under the age of 9 have died in Oregon. In the last year, even with the deadly Delta variant, 66 kids died of COVID between the ages of 5 to 11. 86 children died of pneumonia and influenza. We're not taking the same precautions to protect against the flu and pneumonia. What's even more disturbing is the slideshow states 66 children have taken their lives in the last year in the ages of 5 to 11, the same amount of kids who died of COVID. Correlation does not imply causation, but is it worrisome that just as many kids took their lives last year as died of COVID? We do not know what the impact of masking our children during class and making them eat outside and not being able to socially interact as they normally will be. Is the cure worse than the disease? I'm not saying people shouldn't get their kids vaccinated or wear a mask. I'm saying don't make my kids wear a mask or get a vaccine if they don't want to. If vaccines and masks work, we should be safe and we get back to normal life. I'm fearful we continue to make our kids unnecessarily wear a mask until a vaccine is mandated like California. We are not comfortable getting what seems to be a fast-track vaccine for our young children, and it seems unnecessary. If you feel like there are no other options but to make your kid wear a mask and or get a vaccine or not send them to school, you're not alone. There are many options besides public schools. Some cost money, some cost time, but as a community, we can come up with creative solutions that may be cost neutral, and I am willing to be part of that solution. I hope it does not come to that, but the track record of our elected officials is not something I'm confident in. Leaders lead. Please take the masks off our children. God bless America.
Thank you, Corey. Next speaker. Next speaker, Susie Prentice. Thank you, Susie. Please state your name and your school affiliation.
My name is Susie Prentice. I live in Lapine, and I'm a classified employee of the Bend Lapine School District. I am compelled to speak tonight as I have personally seen and experienced things happening in our district, in our community, that concern me. Due to time constraints, I will limit it to 3 topics as they relate to the sitting school board members. Number 1, COVID-19 protocols. Recently, a board member stated that the board is holding virtual meetings instead of in-person meetings for health and safety concerns. It was obvious at a recent football game at Caldera High School that the board was not concerned about health and safety. District policy states that spectators in the stands at football games must social distance, and if not possible, then masks must be worn at all times. There is a group photo of board members taken at that game without masks and with their heads very closely gathered together. This brings to mind the old adage, do as I say, not as I do. Number 2, election transparency. According to the Deschutes County Elections Office, in the May 2021 Deschutes County School Board election, of the 149,434 registered voters at that time, a maximum of 32,281 people voted for any one of the open school board positions. This means that 117,153 eligible voters in Deschutes County did not cast a vote for open school board positions. This board, their supporters, and our local media have stated repeatedly that they won the election by an overwhelming majority. I don't look at those figures as an overwhelming majority. I look at those figures as apathy on the part of the voting population and a great job by special interest groups using social media to get the candidates of their choice elected. It is true that the candidates did receive at least 50% more votes than their opponents, but let's be honest and transparent and provide the whole context, and please stop saying that they won by an overwhelming majority. And I will give the rest of my concerns in an email to the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susie. All right, our next speaker is Mindy Holliday. Mindy Holliday. Mindy, if you could state your name and your school affiliation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Mindy Holliday. I have 2 kids here at Three Rivers School, a kindergartner and a 4th grader. I thank you for being here, as I know it's not a requirement, so it's nice to see so many of you here tonight. First, I just want to say that I am going into my 4th year being on the PTA of the Three Rivers Board, and I'm also on the State of Oregon PTA Board, representing Deschutes County and 7 other counties in Central and Eastern Oregon. What I've found through that membership is that a lot of the issues that we have are not the same issues that Portland, Salem, and Eugene have. We have our own specific set of issues regarding our students, given the fact that we're more rural and not as populated. Therefore, I'm encouraging you all, when the state or even the federal government come down with recommendations, that we don't just blanketly take whatever that they say, whether that be mask mandates or vaccines. What works for that side of the mountain doesn't necessarily work for this side of the mountain. I also want to take would like you to take into consideration that means also within your district, what works for Bend might not work for Three Rivers or Lapine. We're more rural, we don't have as many students, we don't have as large of a population. So we might be able to have in this school, the kids actually eat in the cafeteria, when other schools in Bend it doesn't work. So I just really encourage you to look within your district and look at the different numbers of the different zip codes and the different schools, and just base any decisions based on those individual numbers. And it's okay to have one area